You assume that for most of human history, giving birth without a hospital meant near certain death for mother and child. That assumption is wrong. Childbirth is nearly 300,000 years older than hospitals, yet by the time doctors arrived, humans had already built cities, writing, and civilization itself. Most people assume ancient birth was chaotic guesswork, but nearly every documented culture built a structured system around it, refined across countless generations. That system had a name in nearly every language. The midwife, a woman entrusted with the most dangerous moment a body could face. Now here's where it gets interesting. Kate is about to walk you through birthing stools in Egypt, squatting positions in the Americas, and Roman texts. Human birth is uniquely dangerous among mammals because two evolutionary triumphs collide inside the same body: walking upright and an enormous newborn brain. Walking on two legs narrowed the human pelvis, while a growing brain demanded a wider skull, forcing every human birth through an unforgiving structural compromise. Human infants are born earlier and more helpless than any other primate, because a baby's brain that finished growing inside the womb would not fit. But that's not the wild part. Every culture ever studied developed the same solution independently: experienced women gathering around the birthing mother to help. Archaeological evidence for this role stretches back further than most people realize, with figurines showing one woman supporting another during labor across cultures. In ancient Egypt, physicians described a specially built birthing stool in medical papyri, proof that specialized birth equipment required specialists trained to use it. The Ebers Papyrus, an Egyptian text nearly 3,500 years old, described how to manage difficult labor and even how to predict an unborn child's sex. In ancient Rome, a physician named Soranus of Ephesus wrote a full obstetric textbook so detailed that doctors still used it centuries later. Here's the part historians still argue about. The position modern hospitals use for birth is nearly the opposite of what most ancient cultures chose. Ancient women squatted, knelt, or sat upright on birthing stools, letting gravity help pull the infant downward instead of fighting against it. A full squat can widen a woman's pelvic outlet by up to 30%, a measurable advantage no ancient midwife could explain, but every midwife used. Now consider what this really meant for pain. Labor pain is not fixed. It shifts dramatically with fear, movement, and who is in the room. Traditional birth attendants surrounded women with trusted company, let them walk, sway, and change position freely, and used warm water to ease contractions. Rhythmic vocalization, the instinctive moaning and chanting heard across cultures during labor, activates the same nervous system pathways used in other pain-blocking rhythmic movement. But there's a catch. Ancient midwives weren't just managing comfort, they were quietly practicing pharmacology centuries before anyone understood what a drug even was. Willow bark, chewed or brewed by traditional healers, contains the same salicylate compounds later isolated and turned into modern aspirin for pain relief. Ergot, a fungus growing on rye, stimulated contractions so effectively that scientists later isolated its compounds to create the oxytocin drugs hospitals use today. Native American midwives used blue and black cohosh root, plants now confirmed to contain hormone-altering compounds that genuinely influence labor and uterine muscle. Turns out the truth is even stranger. Shepherd's purse, an ordinary weed, was used to control dangerous bleeding after birth using genuine vessel-constricting properties. Postpartum hemorrhage killed more mothers throughout history than almost anything else, and traditional midwives fought it with contraction-inducing herbs and hands-on uterine massage. These weren't superstitions dressed as medicine. Each midwife's knowledge had been quietly tested against real outcomes across countless births, generation after generation. Birth was almost never a solitary event. In most ancient cultures, it was a women's space, deliberately closed to men, filled with hands-on help. Now here's the twist most people never hear. Kate wants you to know the hospital position for birth wasn't chosen for the mother's safety. The lying on your back position became standard in the 1600s, partly because it gave the physician better visual access and put him in control of the room. That position works against gravity, compresses the lower spine, and reduces the birth canal's available width, exactly the opposite of what ancient midwives chose. And once you know this, everything else makes more sense. Modern research now confirms upright birth shortens labor and lowers complication rates significantly. Ancient birth was still genuinely dangerous. Roughly 1 to 2% of births ended in a mother's death, a real risk repeated across a lifetime. Modern hospitals have cut that risk by roughly 100-fold, one of medicine's most genuine achievements, built on top of centuries of accumulated midwife knowledge. Somewhere along the way, someone figured out that combining traditional wisdom with germ theory and surgery produced something better than either system alone. Think about surviving that, night after night, trusting a room of women you'd known your whole life with the most dangerous moment of your body. Kate wants you to walk away from this understanding something simple. Traditional midwifery was not primitive guesswork. It was medicine built entirely from careful observation. Most ancient people had to trust that knowledge with their lives, and for 300,000 years, that trust was rewarded often enough to matter. So the next time you picture ancient childbirth as chaos, picture Kate calm, kneeling beside a squatting mother, holding centuries of knowledge in her hands.